environmental artist Alexis Oltmer, who will be talking about her thought-provoking artwork entitled An Unnatural Diet, which is on permanent display at the Niagara Aquarium. She'll show how her artwork draws attention to the danger of plastic pollution in our waterways and to our local fish population, who are the direct consumers of this plastic. She has worked diligently to raise awareness about plastic pollution through the 40-plus beach cleanup she has organized and participated in the Buffalo area, particularly Emerald Beach,
Yes.
at Erie Basin Marina. Her artwork, inspired by these cleanups, will hopefully cause consumers, such as us, to pause and reflect on the repercussions of our everyday use of plastics. So here we present Alexis.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And just a big round of applause for John, because a big round of applause for John, because just in listening to his talk, there's a lot that I reverberate with. And if you guys are looking for a cause, please help me, because I recently moved away from Buffalo. I come back because I just love it so much. But I am looking for people to take over plastic-free Buffalo. It's #plastic-free Buffalo. So it is a beach cleanup that specifically focuses on Emerald Beach. This is in tandem with the Alliance for the Great Lakes and also the Buffalo Niagara Waterkeepers. So if anyone's interested, please, talk to me after the talk. I'm gonna try to leave time for us to speak with one another. We have artists in the crowd tonight. We have environmentalists in the crowd tonight. And how often are we together? Not enough, right? So I want to try to leave, at least 10 minutes for you guys to meet these people over in the back right corner of the room. And, perhaps we can collaborate, right? Because this is what it's all about. It's about making change, taking action, demanding action, but also working together. And as environmentalists, who better to work with other than artists? Because they are people who are going to help propel the voice, the vision, the facts. So, again, I'm gonna try to shorten this just a bit, and if I talk too quickly, please let me know, because I am a New Yorker at heart. So I've titled this Art as Research, because I am going to talk to you about An Unnatural Diet, which is a project that stemmed from 4 years of research at Emerald Beach, which resulted in a project called For Future Generations. So I just want to give you guys a little background. So I don't know who else is also French-Canadian here, but I am. So I grew up as a kid going up to the Gaspé shore, and I'm really lucky to have had a family who maybe didn't have a lot, but taught me to love and cherish my environment. And I'm a huge rock collector. I know we shouldn't always do that, but I love rocks. It's awful. It's an Affleck curse. And I just also wanted to let you guys know that one of the main influences in me becoming an artist was the fact that, and thanks to John, and he spoke about wetlands and how important they are. So I grew up on a home that was situated on protected wetlands, but also across from a state highway, and then a forest. And that forest got demolished when I was a kid, and I made this whole science fair project that was actually an art project about, it was kind of like Fern Gully, they're coming in and they're destroying our forest, and all the deer are over in my yard now. But anywho, one of my chores as a kid, this is actually 1363 Union Center Highway. This is where I grew up. my home was right here, and aside from learning how to drive a lawnmower at a very young age, you know, I picked up trash on the side of the road. And it's funny because I think now, like, oh, Lexi, why do you want to go and pick up trash at a beach? Like, what entices you about this? Well, I've always been surrounded by water, and I've always been picking up other people's litter. But as you can see here, so this is a current day picture of where my house was. And again, we lived in a 200-year-old carriage stop. But again, across from the road, there's a beautiful, the Nanacoke Creek. We live on the Susquehanna. We are river people, river valley people. And behind here, this is where our driveway was a beautiful wetland where I got to watch pollywogs turn into frogs, and I would see great blue herons and kingfishers. And in 2011, Hurricane Irene came over our area, and you know, it flooded our house up to the second floor, and we lost our home. And I'm grateful that our home was designated on protected wetlands because it's like the selfish part of me is grateful because so many other people lost their homes. I don't know if you guys remember that time in 2011, but it not only affected the Endicott, Binghamton area, but it affected the entirety of New York State. Yeah, our home was demolished and no one can ever build there again. So this is like a pivotal part in my art practice because I'm a really nostalgic person. But I'm also really critical on capitalism and commodities and our culture when it comes to environmentalism, right? So I'm not happy that I've lost a lot, but you know, every single season, and it was very cold in January, I will say, but there was still plastic pollution coming up. You know, it's not just frozen, it's still occurring. Land, air, or sea. This is an example of the future fossils that I created. So again, I've told you guys, I collect rocks. So what I did was I teamed up with a local sculptor. You may or may not have heard of her, but she's amazing. Her name's Teddy Ledendowski, and she lived on my street, and she taught me how to create sculptures. So I then made all these different sculptures of rocks that I have found throughout my life. And you know, if you want to dive deeper into my practice and the nature behind the rocks that I've gotten, you know, you can go on my website and learn more because I can promise you there's extensive notes. But what you see on the left is this relief of the rock where it almost looks, you know, kind of blurry. Well, that's because it gives you the texture of the natural rock. And this is actually a rock that I pulled out of Lake Erie itself, but on the Canadian side. And I partnered with a local, a granite supply store. And this guy was so excited. He was like, oh, I was a design major in college. Like, I'll help you cut your rocks. So he was able to help me cut my rocks so that I would have a clean edge, so that when I poured my resin and layered in the plastic pollution, you were able to have a window where you could see all of the different elements that went into the fossil. But on the opposite side, it looked more so natural, right? And then to the right here is just, I know it's too small to really see, but it's just note-taking of the rock that I was casting and just my process. Because I think it helps to, even if you're not a good drawer, it helps to, you know, try to plan out your projects. And this is a side-by-side shortened visualization of, for future generations, a plastic pollution study of Lake Erie that was shown at the SEPA Gallery in January of 2020, which was right before we shut down. After 3 years of research and creating, I am so thankful that I was actually able to show this work, because, oh my gosh, I think I just would have freaked out. But, you know, the pandemic followed, and here we are now. And I'm really thankful. I do want to take a moment. Like, I am really thankful to be in a room with you all, speaking in person. I would assume most of us are vaccinated, but like, this is really nice. And I think that we should just take that in for a moment, right? Maybe a little round of applause, just a touch, right? We're here, we're here. So now, because we're on time, I will go into an unnatural diet. So what you'll see here on the left-hand side is another view of our living room studio, because my partner had the beautiful idea to turn our living room into our studio during the pandemic. And so we have our flat files, and that stores like all of our photographs and, I don't know, all these different materials, but I make on top of that. So you'll see the next photograph is on top of the flat file. And this is me working during the day. So I'm creating a walleye, phytoplankton, and rainbow smelt for the Aquarium of Niagara, because they came in touch with me after seeing for future generations, and they were like, we would love to do a commission piece about plastic pollution and our waterways and our natural species and how they're digesting microplastics and also the chemicals that come along with that. So this is very much so a more dramatic visualization of what's going on in our natural ecosystem. And even the walleye and the rainbow smelt, like, they're technically not actually like natural. They were introduced, but now they're natural. But anywho, these two juxtaposing images show that I work at day and at night. As artists, we have to find ways to separate our working hours and our personal hours, and it can be quite difficult at times, especially when you're coming up against a deadline that may have been pushed up. So to the left, and you can come up here after. I'm gonna try to save time. I have actually the mold and a cast fish, a cast walleye in the mold itself. I was going to freeze an actual walleye in my parent-in-law's house. But I didn't think they would really appreciate that. So I got into the replica fish world, and they actually sold me a replica walleye. I then made a mold of it. That's the pink outline. And then from there, I was able to cast resin and found plastic pollution that I collected, and that also the Buffalo Niagara waterkeepers collected during 2020, which was also scary because, you know, we weren't sure at that time if it was like, if the virus was like due to touching things or if it was respiratory or not. So we had to take a lot of precautions, and this is where I mentioned, if anyone wants to take up plastic-free Buffalo, please let me know, because I ceased all beach cleanups because I just didn't think it was safe at the time. So we have a detail in the middle. I find a ton of foam. Yes, there's a lot of cigarette butts, but there's much more foam that I find on the beach and have found There's also obviously bottle caps, tampon inserters, just like all of these everyday items, but you're just like, how did this end up here? Was it on a freight, like a cargo ship over to wherever, and then it blew off? So I find myself frequently, or I have found myself frequently asking, why is this here? How did it get here? And then to the right, we have installation shots of the wall, because when you're working with a partner, like the Aquarium of the Niagara, everyone has many different ideas as to how they want an installation to come to fruition, to speak to the public. So I had varying ideas on visualizing the Great Lakes and swells. But this is on the left, this is the wall that we chose. To the right, the window, is the science center, and I thought that was just great. And then obviously to the left is the men's room, and I was like, well, that's fine too, because even if it draws people attention when they're going to the bathroom, that's quite fine, right? So on the right-hand side, this is the wall painted, and they had these lovely panels that looked like water moving, right? It gave it dimension. So I said, oh yes, let's install that on the wall. We'll have a plaque, and then I'll create, like, you know, a school of fish. So this left-hand image just shows you my process. And again, I'm a part of the reason why I'm here today is to talk to you about art and environmentalism. So I had done research on schools of fish, but I also wanted to just create a beautiful visual piece for them that would attract people to come in and say, what is this? Oh, plastic pollution, a fish? So you can see the large yellow tapes are the walleye. And then it's hard to see from this distance, but there's all these other pieces of tape that delineate phytoplankton versus rainbow smelt. And to the right, you can see I have installed everything, but I have to trim it down because kids love to pull things out of the wall. So yes. On the left, this is the final shot, and it's a permanent installation, so, you know, I can't urge you enough to go to the Aquarium of Niagara. They need support, and even if, I would be so humbled, even if you go and check out what's happening at the aquarium, but also see the work. I know it would mean a lot to them, right? We're a community. Even in Niagara Falls, I see Niagara Falls as a part of Buffalo. And honestly, they were so generous and supportive during the pandemic. So, you know, if you want to take your kids, your grandkids out there and see the work, that would be wonderful and appreciated. But I have saved enough time. Does anyone have any questions? I can, oh, yes.
You said foam, do you mean styrofoam?
Oh yeah, all different types of foams. It's not just styrofoam, it's pink, blue, black foam, and then styrofoam as we traditionally think about it, like where it's like all the little pieces. Yeah, I would say the yellow foam is more so, I would think is like insulation, the pink and yellow, but it's crazy.
So it could be like beer coolers all broken up or something.
It could be, but it is so much more than that. And one day, actually, 3 times, I pulled a 50-gallon drum out from the lake that was marked Ohio. And that was a lot because it was full of water. But yeah, the foam is a huge issue just because it can travel through air so quickly, right? Yeah.
Clearly, we are consuming microplastics, right?
Yeah, it is. Yes, especially here.
It goes through the system.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy part is that what is it? It's like 20% of the world's fresh water comes from the Great Lakes. And what are we doing? And I don't mean we, I mean institutions and corporations, by and large, are polluting them to the point where it's killing, sorry, I shouldn't say that it's killing us, but it is impacting us. And yes, microplastics, they're showing up in our water, yeah.
Several beaches, does the city clean up any of the driftwood or?
Thank you so much for asking that question, because I don't want to get too political. However, I tried so many times with the Brown administration to get anyone from the government to come and even participate in a cleanup. And it was also, so I don't want to segue too much from your question, but also like the amount of times that they come and pick up the trash was very irregular. Very irregular. And there were also things that they could have done, like they could have partnered with like local schools where you could have like cement barriers that the trash cans sit in so they don't blow over, and then the plastic pollution and trash just spills everywhere over. But remind me again of your initial question, I'm sorry. So they do, but here's the thing. So the Erie Basin Marina is tasked with, and this was of 2019, so it may be different, but I partnered with the Erie Basin Marina because they were in charge of Emerald Beach. And honestly, from 2018 to 2019, when I went, the beach was closed, but I still was able to go and clean it up. They were like, thank you. But those people, like, they needed so much help, and they needed more funding. But there was some sort of contract with the city and the Erie Basin Marina.
It would make a beautiful beach.
It would, but it's also really dangerous to swim there because it's at the mouth of the Niagara, and like you've got all the boats coming out, but like, yes, it would make a beautiful beach. So driftwood is a part of the problem, but yeah, exactly. Like the amount of trash that literally shows up year round there is just insane.
You know, like anything coming down the Buffalo River is gonna.
Yeah. I once found a popcorn bucket from the African lion safari from Canada. You know, so it comes from everywhere. Medical waste too, yeah, that was one thing. Thank you for reminding me, Jeanette. This is one of the artists you should collaborate with when we rap, and you should speak with her. But yeah, I was getting yearly HIV tests because like I would get pricked by needles because there were so many needles on the beach. Or I didn't know. And there would be many times when I would photograph the entire beach and then I was like, oh, there's a hypodermic needle you didn't realize was there. So, yeah.
I grew up on Lake Erie, both sides. We did beach searches as it were. And you know what there used to be a lot of is pottery.
Oh.
Dishes. And so
Huh.
that tells you that people were throwing their trash into the lake
Right,
wherever.
right,
These were really old pieces of like, especially up in Canada along there.
right, right.
We used to collect it.
No, definitely. And I think that's just something that we have to change. I mean, gosh, like, you know, I had to go to Best Buy to get this dongle, right? And even, you know, I'm driving on, I don't know what the road was, but you see the swales, you know, the area where water can sometimes go into, and there is just so much trash everywhere. It's just, again, I don't want to come here and say that we are the problem, right? The person that throws their Coke bottle out of their truck or whatever is just the problem, because the problem really is what that Coke bottle is made of, right? We could make a Coke bottle out of hemp materials. It could be biodegradable. So I don't want you all to leave here feeling like terrible, But I want you to leave here feeling empowered, because there are things that you can do. And honestly, if picking up trash on the side of the road or the beach makes you feel better, good, because it made me feel better, because I was really frustrated in 2016. And this is why I started this, because I saw an issue and I was like, well, why did you just photograph that beach? Why didn't you clean it up? But also, I want you to feel empowered to speak with other people about their habits and their consumption habits, and also why certain industries are making things that they are. Because just as we do live in a democracy and you have the right to vote, you also have the right to vote with every purchase that you make, because we live in a capitalistic democracy, right? And I'm not sure what good writing our Congress people will do, but we might as well try, right? We might as well try. A letter in a bottle.
Another thing we can all do as hikers, we all spend a lot of time
Ooh.
in the woods, on the beach, on the waters, is to always have a bag handy
Yes.
and collect as much as you can.
Yes, one.
We all do that. I forget sometimes, but we all have our Wegmans and Tops bags in our cars for grocery shopping. They can be used.
100%. Even when I go on a regular walk, in my area, I often think, oh my gosh, why didn't I bring a bag? Because there is so much around. And again, if this is something that makes you feel better, go ahead and do it. But also, I'm here today to kind of show you guys that, I'm here as an artist, and I saw an issue that really made me angry, and I made art about it. And this is where we have time. I want to leave time for you to talk to the creative people in the room as well, because when environmentalists and creatives get together, we can help create stories and tell a narrative. I don't want you to come away from this feeling badly or that you're responsible, but I want you to feel empowered, right? And who knows, maybe you'll make your own art project, or you'll collaborate with a local artist, or you will take up plastic-free Buffalo or start another cleanup in your own. Or you'll start a mailing campaign, right? Or you'll mail plastic pollution or pollution to your local Congress people. It's hard. This is a really hard time. And again, this is why I wanted to just focus on the fact that we're all here tonight and we're together because we care. And that's really important. And it's nice to be together, right?
What plastic pieces do you see the most of? Is it bottles, water bottles?
No, it wasn't water bottles. It was bottle caps, straws, and balloon strings. Yeah, that killed me a bit, because balloons are fun, but that sucked. Yeah. And then it was also really interesting to think of it from the anthropological, the Anthropocene, the Capitalocene. I would find large pieces of foam that had all of these little mollusks living on them. I would find a lot of creatures living on plastic. And I was just watching, oh gosh, if you don't donate to WPSU or whatever, you can get the passport for $60. I'm not here on behalf of NPR, but if you donate $60 a year or $5 a month for a year, you can get the passport, and they have these lovely nature series and much more. But I was watching something, and I think it was in Japan somewhere, or potentially Indonesia, so sorry, I'm not sure the location, but there were hermit crabs, and they find new shells, right? They're really particular, they like their colors, But these hermit crabs were literally going into plastic pollution. And I was like, oh, God. If that isn't the Anthropocene, I don't know what is, you know?
Places don't have receptacles
Yeah.
for dog poop,
And
beaches don't have garbage cans.
yeah, yeah.
So that's something that has to be dealt with.
Yeah, and that's a local policy. And again, these are things that I tried to get a sharps box at Emerald Beach, and there
that
was
seems so
nothing.
simple,
Yeah,
that one thing.
yeah. But maybe you guys could make that happen now.
Yeah.
I mean, the administration is under more pressure, but.
What's your next project?
Oh, so some exciting news. I am going between 2 different graduate schools for my MFA, and yeah, and I really want to focus on growth and decay. But you know, I was sitting with my mentor earlier today, just speaking through all of this, and there is just so much to talk about. So I have been, I haven't allowed myself the space to really focus on what my next project will be. Potentially it will be on the coral reefs. Potentially it will be on algae. Potentially it will be on fungi and how they, you know, transport information between trees. But I do want to branch a bit away from plastic pollution. However, wherever I am, if there is a large amount of trash, I would like to highlight that because I find it very easy to do so, right? It's something that I think that now I'm just so aware of it, like I just can't help but, like I was telling you guys, I'm driving around and I'm seeing all this pollution in the swales or on the side of the road, but also it's very dangerous to pull over on the side of a highway. But yeah, but for right now, I will say I'm making sculptural grids that speak between like industrialized products and the natural world, and kind of reducing them into pigments, but also in conversation with one another. Yeah. So I'm having fun. I'm living my life. I'm trying to learn, you know.
Any more questions?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And like I said, go and talk with the art people, mingle. And I'll be over here if you want to talk